You know what's crazy about this country? Is the number of people that are walking around who are absolutely duped by this system and they don't even realize it. Like the internet is full of shitty ass people with garbage ass takes like this guy's take.
Cold, hard truth. Minimum wage is for minimum work experience. If you were in your 30s still making minimum wage, you really fucked up somewhere in your life. You evidently either lack the ambition or the motivation to do anything productive with your life. Minimum wage is meant for the starting point. Usually when you're in your teens, and that is where you gain work experience and knowledge to further your career to make more money. Shocker, that's how jobs work. You don't just show up expecting $35 an hour as a starting point when you know nothing about what you're doing.
The federal minimum wage is something like $7 an hour. No one expects to make $35 an hour on their first day on any job. But we're talking about a $28 an hour gap here. And it's always guys like this who like to oversimplify complex issues, yell them into a camera to a bunch of low IQ people who don't do any research at all and just go, hell yeah, man, you tell them we gotta work hard for what we get. $7 an hour and $35 an hour are two way different things. Secondly, you have no idea why anyone in their 30s is making minimum wage. What's crazy is that the fact that someone in their 30s would take a job for minimum wage tells you that they are a hardworking person, that they're not a lazy person, because they would just sit around and not work at all, and they would turn their nose up at the minimum wage. But most people in their 30s aren't making minimum wage. Most people aren't even asking to make $35 an hour. Most people are just asking to make around $17 to $22 an hour. But when the federal minimum wage is around $7 an hour, and there are idiots like you yelling about how people making minimum wage must have messed up in their life or did something wrong and la la la, we can't ever get anywhere. Anyone who is making that amount of money in their 30s could have came across any type of situation in their life to have to make that amount of money, but instead of turning their nose up at it, they're working. They're working anyway, but they got to have people like you on the internet yelling at them, talking about they're not doing enough and they're lazy and all that, when they're out there working their asses off for minimum wage.
Most people with more than 6.5 brain cells kind of figured out what they were going to be doing in their teens or 20s, and yet I see a whole shitload of people complaining about minimum wage in their 30s, still living at their parents' house and literally have nothing to their name.
Dude, you don't have 6.5 brain cells. And these Republican MAGA types, they love to make up this 30-year-old who's living at their parents' house, has nothing to their name, and complaining about making minimum wage. Those people don't exist. You're not seeing a bunch of videos or a bunch of whiny 30-year-olds who are living in their parents' basements who have nothing to their name complaining about minimum wage. You're seeing people like me advocating for raising the federal minimum wage, which hasn't been raised for decades, so that other wages will go up as well. Why are you against that? Why are you against more people making a little bit more money so they can spend more time with their family and have more leisure time? It's probably because this guy has another video where he talks about how I've never worked a 40-hour week. I work 60 hours. I work until I bleed. Dude, you don't even know how much you're being duped. And you know who's telling you that's the American way, that's the American dream, wake up early, go home late, work, work, work? Millionaires, billionaires, and politicians who would never have their children do exactly what you're yelling at your camera about having everyone else do. Dude, this is asinine. It's a garbage ass take, and we should do better. We should want our neighbors to be able to enjoy life, not to spend all of their life just working and punching a clock. And people like this somehow believe that's the American way.
And have the audacity to bitch about it. You are the problem. You created this whole scenario by yourself from your lack of fucking ambition. And if you want to point the finger at somebody for where you're at in your life, you should probably be looking in the mirror at the same fucking time. This isn't the government's fault. This isn't society's fault. This is all on you. So if you're in your 30s working for minimum wage, barely making ends meet, I don't feel sorry for you.
And make it make sense. So the person is working. They're doing their job. They're showing up every day. But according to him, they lack ambition. But here's the deal. This guy says, you know what? If you're doing that, if you're working for minimum wage, I don't feel sorry for you. If you're not making ends meet or having a hard time making ends meet, I don't feel sorry for you. The lack of empathy with these people disgusts me. All I can say is I hope the worst for this dude and fuck him. Period.
Don't want no enemies or ops. Envy in they heart, I tell them stop. Vacation on the yacht.